let's talk about Penn State because there are very, very high expectations for James Franklin in Penn State. They're ranked second for the first time since the late 90s. It feels like this is the year that they're going to be able to get over the hump. But Damien, are you buying it? Do you think this is their year?
Not so fast.
Here come the hate.
Because
Here come the hate.
We hear the same story about James Franklin every single year. We hear the same story about Penn State every single year. And now all of a sudden you mean to tell me just because you go and get Jim Knowles and bring him the defensive coordinator of Ohio State, all of a sudden you're going to win a national championship? Hold on. Just hold on 1 second. You mean to tell me just because Drew Allar's coming back, you're going to get it done this year? Well, hold on just 1 second. Okay, you've got a two-headed monster in the backfield. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. So you mean to tell me that this is the year to get it done? Well, the problem is you still got James Franklin as the head. And here's what I will say. I have a lot of respect for James Franklin and the progress that he has made at Penn State.
But
whenever you have the talent that James Franklin has had, when you have the roster, when you have the resources, when you have the coaching staff, the players that you've had, the Micah Parsons, guys like that, and you come up short year after year after year. And it's particularly against one team that is Ohio State year after year after year. Well, when do we get tired of the consistency and not being good enough? When do we get tired in that? When do we start looking in different directions and looking at different teams and saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm tired of talking about Penn State. I would love to be surprised and see Penn State win it all this year. I would, because it would make me feel a lot better about James Franklin and the security of his job. But until I see Penn State get over this hump, again, with all of the talent, with the coaches that they have, with the resources that they have, Jim Knowles, highest paid coordinator in all of college football. If you don't get it done this year, I have said it once, I will say it again. James Franklin, you will be on my hot seat.
So I played for a guy that took a lot of same heat and criticism. Bobby Bowden couldn't win the big one. He was knocking on the door, couldn't win the big one, and then he did. Dabo Swinney, remember Clemsoning was a thing, and they kept panicking versus lesser team, blowing leads. People said the same thing about Dabo Swinney. Those two guys did what James Franklin's trying to do, change that narrative. I think this is the year he can do it because of the question marks around everybody else. And it does make me wonder, if this isn't the year for James Franklin, when does it get any better than this? When Ohio State's breaking a new quarterback, Michigan has a true freshman, Oregon has a young quarterback, Texas, I mean, all the contenders feel like they have question marks. Penn State's supposed to have the answers. I'm believing in them, but it is going to take it to prove his critics wrong.
I'm siding more with Danny than Damien when you look at the experience on the roster and the unknowns with the other teams in their conference in the Big Ten. New quarterback at Ohio State, new quarterback at Oregon. They lost a lot when you look at the personnel. Penn State returned some of their major contributors, especially on the offensive end, and they have a legit NFL prospect at the quarterback position. Many believe who is a first-round type of talent. That talent has to surface. Running backs. Two. The defense has never been an issue. We believe the defense would be better in terms of Coach Knowles now being there. So this has to be the year. And for Penn State fans, I don't know if they can endure another letdown like they've seen in years past, because once upon a time, it was the inability to beat Michigan or Ohio State. Well, you lost to Ohio State a year ago. You still got into the playoffs. You had a slip up in the postseason play. Their fans felt a little better, but now it's like we need to go above and beyond what we did a year ago. And to Danny's point, this has to be the year, because if it's not, you're going to hear Damien's
You're going to hear
mouth.
a lot from me. And hold on, Jack. Before we get back to you, I want to say one thing. I just want to say one thing. Something that we all three sat up here and said, this has to be the year. So you know what that means? There is a ton of pressure.
Facts.
And now some people look at it and say, no pressure, no diamonds. Is James Franklin that way? We'll see this year.
Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ. We had 17 games on tap for college football yesterday, and this whole weekend, I had somebody ask me if I wanted to go car shopping tomorrow. I was like, bro, that is the dumbest question you've ever asked me in your entire life.
Man's not going car shopping.
It is college football weekend. Taking a look at the odds to win the Natty. Texas right now sitting at number 1, followed by Georgia and the reigning champs Ohio State. We heard the guys go off, specifically Damien Harris go off on Penn State, saying because of James Franklin, they are likely not going to win the national championship. That is way far down the line. We're going to get in to tomorrow's games and one on Sunday. Let's welcome back in Danny Kanell, Bryant McFadden, Damien Harris. B-Mac, I love you. I heard you have a monitor. I want you to see this. I appreciate the shirt. Jordan Travis, I am told, though, that you just bought it for this game. And Damien has the ring, though. Like, that trumps all, right, Damien?
You know what I'm saying? I got to stay cool with all this ice on. You know what I'm saying? It's a little warm out here.
I got one too. I just think it looks a little tacky.
So I got more than one. I only brought one.
Amanda, I'm sorry. My earpiece is not working really good, so I didn't hear anything you said.
That's fair. That's fair.
By the way, Amanda, Amanda, you're probably out shopping for Lambos and Ferraris. I mean, she's the new face
car
of
shopping.
Paramount Plus
First weekend.
NFL pregame show. You gotta go spend some of that money.
It must be nice.
This is nothing to do with
Soon
that.
you're going to have a chain like B-Mac.
That's true. But like both of you right now, no, I'm just hoping that I won't be embarrassed to wear an Oklahoma shirt this season. So let's get into the game tomorrow. Look, it's incredible that we have some Florida State grads here and Alabama grad as well who played for all of these incredible programs. It's a big number, guys, 13.5 in favor of Alabama. We've talked about this, though. Which team kind of has more pressure going into this game? There's a lot on both sides. B-Mac, talk to us about the pressure for Florida State going into this one.
Well, it's an opportunity, and this is not necessarily pressure, but this is an opportunity to serve the entire college football world, put them on notice that we're here and we're back. 2024 is over and done with. We're back to being in that ACC championship conversation. And if they're able to win, Amanda, you instantly talk about Florida State in those conversations about trying to represent the ACC in a championship game and, most importantly, getting to the playoffs. And all the pressure is on Alabama because they're a 13.5-point favorite. The last time I checked, I don't know if we had any line movement or anything like that, but that's a big number. So if you come out and outright win and do so in an impressive fashion or just win, you're going to be looked at differently than what we view you as now. So for Florida State, we had an opportunity to talk to Coach Norvell. Just come out and play football. Make the plays that you're supposed to make. Do not shoot yourself in the foot, and just play with an enormous amount of energy and effort and allow the chips to fall where they may.
Guys, what do you think? Damien, we'll go to you. Talk to us about the pressure for Alabama in this one.
Well, pressure is the only word to use right now. I mean, there's pressure on Coach Kalen DeBoer because, again, last year was a lackluster year, missing out on the college football playoffs. And I will say, Coach Kalen DeBoer, he's been dealt an unfair hand because he is following suit of the one and only Nick Saban. But there does still come with pressure, especially when a lot of the fan base thinks that you under-delivered in year one. Then you look at the quarterback position. There was a lot of talk. Is it going to be Ty Simpson? Is it going to be Keelan Russell? It ends up being Ty Simpson. Half of the fan base is still divided. Well, is this the safe option because he's the veteran guy and he's going to take care of the football better, or is he going to be the guy that goes out there and helps us win games? You look at the receiver core. We need somebody to emerge whose name is not Ryan Williams, because last year, if he was not open or we could not get him the ball, there was no other receiver that was a part of the passing game. And the last thing I will say is this. All the things you just said, B-Mac, about Florida State and the program and where they're at and where they will be if they beat Alabama, that's all fine and well. But what Florida State did last year was an atrocity. Your words, not mine. Well, I would say it too. But at the end of the day, it was an atrocity. So now going back to Alabama, going back to Coach Kalen DeBoer, in year two, if you have not learned anything, if you have not done anything in this offseason to look different in year two than you have in year one, and you come out here and you lose this game, or even if it's close, the fans are going to be unhappy. The university is going to be unhappy, and I think this is unfair, but there will be some people calling for Coach Kalen DeBoer's job before the season ends. So you do not want any of that. You want to start the season on the right note and show improvement from year one to year two.
I'll piggyback off what you're saying because I think this is the biggest dynamic that shows you kind of the pressure on both programs. I think if Florida State lost by a field goal and maybe even a touchdown, you'd see some Florida State fans, not all of them, but a lot of them might say, man, all right, we competed with Alabama. We feel like we're headed in the right direction. If Alabama lost in 4 overtimes by 1 point, they're still calling for Kalen DeBoer to be fired. Like, there's no quality loss here for Alabama. Like you said, if they lose this game, there are going to be fans calling for Kalen DeBoer. So I think it means infinitely more for Alabama. And for Florida State, a win almost feels like a gift at this point. Florida State fans would take it and run with it, and it could completely change the complexion of the season. But there's way more pressure on Alabama.
Absolutely.
B-Mac, because I did pick on you in the beginning, and as you mentioned, 13.5 points, and it is staying steady at that right now. It's a huge number. What do you do with that line if you're betting the game?
Well, me personally, I got to take the points, and here's why. Not saying so because I'm a Florida State guy, Damien, but hear me out. Weather could potentially surface in this ball game. And if that's the case, I love to take the team that's already getting points, potentially seeing a sloppy type surface in the stadium and not really seeing both teams being able to be at their best if weather surface. Not to mention, both offenses will be displaying new quarterbacks. how quick will we see a rhythm involved in the offense? Will both teams try to insert the running game? We know Gus Malzahn loves to run the football, and if I'm Alabama with Ty Simpson making his first start on the road in this environment, let's get the running game going even without Jam being in the backfield. So me personally, I tend to take the underdog right now when you talk about 13.5 points favorites for Alabama, because if it happens to rain and if it gets ugly, you want the team that already has points on the scoreboard knowing that surface might be difficult.
I tend to agree with you there. All right, let's go to the other big game tomorrow. Texas and Ohio. Look, there's a lot of big games, but this is the biggest. Texas at Ohio State. The top two teams that are favored to go ahead and win the national championship. Danny, I'm going to start with you. Texas is favored by 1.5 on the road there. Not sure it's fair. This is only the second time ever we had a season opening game between top 3 ranked teams. Are we the pressure, Danny, that we're talking about on this game, is it fair? Is it really that massive?
Yeah, I don't think there's that much pressure on either one of these teams, because either one could lose and still could be in the national championship game. But there is one player that has more pressure on him than I've seen on a guy making his first start. It's Arch Manning. And the expectations are unlike anything I've seen in 15 years covering this sport. There's a hysteria when people talk about Arch Manning. It's like the only player that people are tuning in to watch to see how he does, with a couple of uncles that have Super Bowl rings and Hall of Fame jackets and a grandfather as well. And no one knows really what's going to unfold. I'm really curious to see how he handles the magnitude of the moment. It is on the road, and that doesn't matter what your last name is. You're making your first start in a hostile environment. It makes things much more challenging to speak to the line of scrimmage, to get your cadence off. Oh, by the way, Texas also has some new offensive linemen who are kind of cutting their teeth in this game as well. So I am very curious to see how Arch Manning handles the pressure. Last year he came in a couple times, and guess what? If it didn't go well, they gave it back to Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers isn't waiting anymore. This is his job, and he's supposed to lead this team to the promised land. I'm really curious to see how he handles that pressure.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I look at somebody on the other team, Ohio State, to deal with not similar pressure, but pressure from the regards of the hype that we're bringing to him, similar to Arch Manning. Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver. Now, we have already touted this guy as our Heisman winner, as one of the best wide receivers we've seen in college football in some time. Well, all these teams, Ohio State in particular, who they just added Matt Patricia, who is a longtime NFL defensive coordinator, had a lot of success with the New England Patriots. So they just add him, and this just adds a different dimension to this defense, right? They can do so many different things. They can use their players in so many different avenues. And then again, getting back to Jeremiah Smith, how is he going to deal with the fact that we have already put all of these narratives around him? He hasn't played a game in his second year yet, and all of these defensive coordinators, all these coaches are eyeing him. They are locked into him because they're saying, okay, they've got a young quarterback. They just lost Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, so we're not as much worried about the run game. We're not all that worried about wide receiver 2 and Kanell Tate. If we stop Jeremiah Smith, essentially every team says we win this football game. So how is he going to open the season with that much attention on him? How is he going to progress throughout the rest of the season and continue to add on to the hype train that is Jeremiah Smith?
If was a fifth, we all be leaning to our left. And I don't drink. The reason why Jeremiah Smith is receiving the hype that he's getting, because he balled last year.
Did he?
He's a grown man. Arch hasn't done what Jeremiah Smith has done in 1 year when you look at the time that Arch has been there in Austin. And if Julian Sagan just protects the football and makes the timely plays, Jeremiah Smith is going to show up, because to your point, Kanell Tate isn't Jeremiah Smith, but he's an NFL prospect.
Emeka Egbuka.
Thank you.
Essentially, Emeka Egbuka. All over again.
So if I'm Julian saying, just make the routine plays happen routinely. You don't need to go out and put a Superman on. You don't have to be a superhero. Just be smart with the football and get the football into your playmaker's hands. And one thing that you hit on that I love that you said, for me, Matt Patricia. You can say whatever you want to say about his inability to be a good head coach at the highest level. That man can call defensive plays.
He can.
And one thing we know about the game, when you look at NFL coordinators that go down a level to collegiate football, they cause problems because it's a different game, and they take that same mindset that they utilize on Sundays and put it on Saturdays. And most offensive coordinators, collegiate coordinators, they have issues. And you talked about Texas. I think they're replacing 4 offensive linemen.
They are.
On the road, even though it's high noon, high 11, whatever the case may be, that's a difficult task when you know Matt Patricia with that pencil in his ear is going to be dialing up heat to put on Arch Manning. So let's see how it plays out. But I can't wait to see this game kick off, because to your point, regardless of what happens, both teams still control their own destiny.
I just felt like I went to college football church with VMAC there preaching. Like, I was good. Really quickly, Texas is favored. Raise your hand if you're taking the Longhorns to win. No. Only one.
Mr. SEC over there.
Only one. It's going to be
SEC
serious.
always, baby. SEC always, baby.
Really quickly, we got to talk about LSU going up to Clemson. LSU has not won an opening game in 5 years. There's a lot of pressure on this team as a whole. I want to talk about the quarterbacks, though. Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik. Both are tied for the second favorite when it comes to odds to win the Heisman. Yesterday, though, Danny, I'll start with you. Here's our quarterback. We did a mock draft with Mike Renner, I believe, and he had Garrett Nussmeier going second overall, Cade Klubnik 10th. Do you see that much of a difference between the quarterbacks? Who has the upper hand?
Love it, Amanda. Thank you. We didn't hear all that because there's like a helicopter flying over our heads here, but I think you're asking about Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. Those two come. These are two of the most experienced quarterbacks that we've seen. I do give the edge to Cade Klubnik because he's played more. Garrett Nussmeier might be more of a gunslinger mentality, but he was a little bit up and down last year.
Yes.
You know, everybody gave Carson Beck at Georgia a hard time for throwing interceptions with 12. Guess how many Garrett Nussmeier had? 12 interceptions last year as well. And where he struggled the most was on the road. Texas A&M, that game comes to mind. We had a couple interceptions, ended up costing them the game. And another quarterback who is your quintessential pocket passer, LSU is replacing 4 offensive linemen, and even worse than Texas, we were talking about them. Brian Kelly said he's going to rotate guys in off the bench. So they're kind of, they're trying to figure out the offensive line up front. And Cade Klubnik does have maybe one of the best wide receiving cores in the country that he's got working with. So I trust him a little bit more, and I also like his upside down the road as well.
Guys, we appreciate it.
I'm right there with Danny.
Oh, go ahead, B-Mac, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, no.
No, we're not. This is college football, but I'm right there with Danny. I trust Cade, and I trust Dabo more than Brian Kelly as well. I know it's time to rap, but it's college football, and I don't want to rap, but as a professional, I'm going to be obedient. I'm rapping.
Well, I'm not being as professional because I'm not letting us rap yet because I agree with both of these guys. Listen, I definitely trust Dabo Swinney more. And Cade Klubnik, Danny, you said it best. He takes care of the football. Garrett Nussmeier's biggest problem is turnovers. Cade Klubnik, he does not. He understands the importance of if we maintain the ball in our hands, we end every position with a kick, then we're going to be successful as an offense. So I'm going Clemson.
B-Mac, because you didn't talk as much there, we're going to put up a full screen for tomorrow's show. What can we expect, B-Mac, if you could hear me from tomorrow's show out there in Tallahassee?
Listen, energy. We're going to deliver in a big way. In a 5-star matchup, I need my 5-star players.
Put him back
on
the screen,
and
please.
we have our 5-star players right here, as you see it right now. So make sure, don't meet us there, beat us there. 9 a.m., get there at 8:30 because we're going to be fired up on this Sprite and Mountain Dew, and nobody will be able to contain us.
Week 1 of college football is upon us, and we have a handful of exciting matchups. We already talked about some of them right here on HQ. Of course, the top-ranked Texas Longhorns taking on the defending champs in Ohio State. That kicks off 12 Eastern on Saturday. We have a full crew that's out there in Tallahassee right now for Bama-FSU. Penn State, that kicks off our Big Ten on CBS. Slay there. Heavy favorites against Nevada. And then, of course, the Battle of Death Valley with LSU and Clemson. So let's get some picks and some bets, shall we, to help you make some money on college football. And for that, let's bring in Bud Elliott and Mackenzie Brooks joining us from Tallahassee. Guys, great to see you. And we are starting off with your best bet for week 1. Bud, kick us off. What do you got?
You hear anything?
Yeah, you got it, Bud. Tell us about your best bet for week 1.
All right, best bet for week 1. We're going to go Miami, Notre Dame under 24.5. This is 2 coaches. Mario's not a defensive coach for Miami, but he does tend to have defensive tendencies. Obviously, Marcus Freeman is a defensive coach. 2 new quarterbacks for their team. Carson Beck's played before. 2 excellent offensive lines. 2 great backfields. I think we'll see a lot of running in the first half. So under 24.5 in Miami, Notre Dame for me.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to go to the Battle of the Death Valleys here. I'm taking LSU plus the 4 on the road. We're buying so much into this Clemson brand name. Dabo's hit the transfer portal. What did he get, Bud? A guy from Southeast Missouri, a Nepo baby from UNC, whose dad is a coach at Clemson. You have a 3-star backup from Bama, and a guy from a 1-11 Purdue team. That's not going to necessarily stop you from being minus 160 on the ground against SEC teams. Clemson was 0-3 against SEC teams. They got eaten alive on the ground. They could not stop the run. I think LSU will have similar success here today. And all we need, they can lose by a field goal, and we still cover the spread, Jacqueline. win.
That's right.
Oh man, I was just about to say, Kens, that LSU fans are going to be happy because you're kind of giving them that hope that they might win that season opener. But losing by a field goal is not something that they want to hear, right? Okay, now we're going to look ahead to futures for the CFP. Kens, kick us off. What do you got in terms of CFP futures?
I think I'm going to go to the playoff market here for my CFP future. I'm going to go Ole Miss to make the playoff. I know, a little SEC homer play here, but it's over plus 200. I think that's a solid price for what you're getting here. I think we could see 5 SEC teams make the playoff, depending on what happens with a Clemson or a Notre Dame. Those are the spots that you're going to see come to an SEC team. Ole Miss has such a favorable schedule relative to some of these other SEC teams here. I love what Lane Kiffin can do with his offense in general. If they finish 3rd, even 4th, I'm not asking them to make the SEC championship. I just think those 3rd, 4th, potentially 5th best SEC teams could make the playoff this year. What do you think?
Kens, I think that's actually a pretty good pick. I'm going to go with Iowa. After watching Minnesota, Nebraska, and Rutgers last night, Iowa plays all 3 of those teams. None of them were all that impressive to me. Iowa, they finally have a quarterback, I think it's called. They're going to try that out this year. It's a new concept, but Iowa, if you look at this schedule, the Penn State game's difficult, the Oregon game's difficult. They really could go 10-2 and be that 4th Big Ten team to claim the playoff spot.
All right.
Okay, we're going to talk Heisman Trophy winners. Now, I know what Bud's pick is, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. Kens, you still have time. If you want to change your Heisman Trophy winner or like who you're finding good value on, you still have time to do that so you can be in lockstep with our good friend Bud Elliott.
Listen, I'm still going down the board, Jacqueline. You can still respect that here. John Mateer for my Heisman pick, 25-1. Now, I think Oklahoma could have a phenomenal year in general. I think they can go over their win total. I think you have John Mateer who comes with his offensive coordinator. Typically, history tells us that that's a pretty good situation to be in. We saw it with Cam Ward. We even saw it with a guy like Bailey Zappi. So 9 wins is typically the threshold you need to hit to be in the conversation to go to New York City. I think this Oklahoma team could hit that. They're top 10 in returning production. I think vibes will be high here. You have so many other guys on this board with such high expectations, it's hard for them to exceed them. I think with John Mateer, he has actually an opportunity to exceed those expectations.
I'm going to go with one that won't make the folks here very happy, but it'll make Jacqueline pretty happy back in studio. He needs to stay healthy. This is something he has struggled to do, but I'm going to go with DJ Lagway. I do think if he plays 12 games, maybe even 11 games, Florida will be in the playoff conversation. If he just stays healthy, it's a big number, but he's kind of like Ben Roethlisberger. If you watch what he did against Ole Miss and LSU last year, if he can stay healthy, I think Lagway is actually worth a little nibble here.
Wow.
Come on, they're both 25-1, Kens. You could just get the same odds and go with DJ Lagway, and we'll all just be one big happy Gator family, right? All right, let's finally get a pick to win the Natty. Kens, who do you like? Where are you finding some value here?
Oh, it's so tough, and I feel kind of lame saying this, but I do think Penn State is a good situation to be. I don't even think they're going to win the Big Ten championship necessarily. The Sportsline model has them projected to be the 4th-ranked team heading into the playoff. So many matchups to the national championship that we have them as literally 51% favorites in. Like, it's not going to be an easy ride, which is the point, right, with the new ranking that we're getting with the 2nd season of the 12-team playoff. But I do ultimately think if I can see Drew Aller play well in one of these marquee matchups, I see no reason to believe they can't win the national championship.
I'm going to go with Alabama. I think
right.
if you read the market in the new revenue share era, Bama was not messing around in the transfer portal at all for quarterbacks. I believe they like the kid they have in-house. I think they might have the best combo of offensive defensive lines in the country. That young secondary, they got torched last year. A lot of freshmen. Now those guys are grown up. I think Bama is worth a look.
All right, Bud, Kens, we certainly appreciate it, giving us best bets for week 1 and then also telling us where you're finding some value in terms of some college football futures. Hey, for some more winning picks, make sure you check out The Early Edge, a daily Sportsline betting podcast. You can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.